Sunday, 3 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 4 o'clock p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Welcome to the show Act Now Live. I'm Dr. Natalie Phillips.
And I'm Regeanie Corona.
Hello, Reg. Okay, so it's Sunday. Did you do much today?
No, I'm just trying to relax a bit and prepare for the week. How about you?
Yeah, I actually had something that's really relative to our topic today that I wanted to share. I was able to go to a new club volleyball bonding session with my daughter on her new team. It was pretty nice at a former player's family's house, and it was just the whole new team, a whole new coach. You know, last year was a great year for her to just start off playing club volleyball. And most of the parents were really great. You know, the kids, there was just maybe one that just was kind of a bully. Parents weren't really nice or anything like that. But, you know, a lot of us talk to our girls about just trying to get through the season, like not quitting, but how to deal with that type of person and that type of environment. And I thought that it was a great bunch of lessons that we taught. But at the same time, there's this funny thing of like, how much do you actually teach this early to really try to hang in there and do the best that you can? Or do you open them up to some new environments? So a lot of the parents made some decisions to try out for some other teams. And my daughter made another team with another family. And apparently a lot of other families had left the other club. And it was interesting because just the new environment today of meeting the other new parents and the new coach. The coach was talking about being more of a mentor than just, you know, the other one just hammered and yelled a lot. And it was just so different and it was so exciting. And I felt like it was so relevant to our topic about surrounding yourself with the right people, because it happens even, you know, not even just as a business or when you're working with people, but teaching even your kids this lesson at such an early age, you know. So I'm excited about the season. Now, I mean, I know not everything is perfect, but it is teaching them to walk into different environments, that there are other options out there, other people that you can surround yourself with. And so it was pretty fitting that that happened today. I was like, oh my gosh, this is our topic today. So
that's a perfect example of how important it is to surround yourself with the right people, and to even teach our kids that concept, and to know when it's right and when it's not right. You know, that's the big thing. We were talking a little bit before the show, and how sometimes we want to get out of a situation because it makes us feel uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I always say you've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So feeling uncomfortable in a positive way is okay. But it's when it crosses those boundaries, those lines of, okay, this feels kind of icky. This doesn't feel good anymore. That you have to take a step back, and you have to teach your kids too. Take a step back and evaluate, is this really the right place for me? And it's not quitting. It's recognizing that I'm not surrounded by the right people who are going to help me excel and achieve the things that I'm looking to achieve and to get better.
Yeah. And actually what was really interesting that the coach, I'm adding this in too, is that the coach was interesting. She shared a little bit about her playing volleyball and the environments that she grew up playing volleyball. And it was similar to mine, you know, where my coach was very demanding and focused on the really talented girls and the kids. And maybe you weren't as talented. But again, you know, it didn't stop us from continuing to play volleyball afterwards and things like that. But it was really interesting to hear how she went down a very similar road in high school, you know, that I did as well. And that we continued we didn't just quit and say, well, that stunk, you know, and just never played again, because it was something that was fun for us to do. So it was interesting. And what she said was, I'm actually glad that I had that coach, because it now teaches me how I do not want to be able to coach other people. So I thought that was really, really cool of her. And she's young, and I'm really excited because I think that she's got a really good head on her shoulders. So it was kind of neat to see her introduce herself to the parents and to the players. So I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So today's topic is really surrounding yourself with the right people. And I love this topic. I think it's really, really important. You and I kind of lucked out because we have each other. But, you know, yes, you know, in our post this week, we talked about there's a lot of people that say surround yourself with great people or with good people. And there are a lot of good and great people out there. But the important thing that I love to talk about is it's not just about the good and the great people, but it's the right
The
people.
right
And
people.
so I love that. And so I know that we've got some different tips to share. And let's start with just this first tip or this step of how do you surround yourself, or how do you even know that you're around the right people? So I'm going to have you kind of kick us off on this, just the first step of knowing who you are, because that's really the first step.
It is the first step, and this goes back to what we've been talking about, both in the show and in the group for at least the past couple of weeks now. It goes back to understanding who you are, what your values are, what you stand for, what's your life philosophy, and then being very confident in that and standing in that boldly, but then also recognizing what's the life philosophy of the people that you're around. Are their values aligned with your values? And recognizing that doesn't mean that you want to surround yourself with people who are like yes people who are always going to agree with you. No, that's not it at all. It's you want to surround yourself with people who are like-minded and are looking to be motivated and to motivate, to help support you in the things that you're wanting to achieve and to help you accomplish, and to genuinely be happy for you when you get there, even if they haven't gotten there yet. And it's this bi-directional relationship. So really knowing who you are and what's important to you is where you start, because then that's how you start to draw the right people into your circle. And oftentimes when we haven't really thought about who we are and what our life philosophy is, then we sometimes end up with people. They're not bad people, they're just not the right people in our circle. And think about this even with marriage. How many people get married because there's an attraction there? There's, all of these other, I don't want to call them superficial things, but there are all of these other things, but they don't have the conversation early on about values and where they stand on their values, which is going to determine things like when we have kids, how are we going to come together to raise our kids? When we bring our money together, how are we going to stand in that around our finances? Values are really important when you're looking at those things. So it's important to have those conversations early on.
Yeah, that's such a great thought too about just even marriage, right? And even marriage, partnership, relationships. You had talked about how you're drawing in that energy. There's two things that I liked about what you said about, once you know who you are, you can draw the right people in. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I love that you taught me is bi-directionality. How are you helping each other out? And it's funny because I look at us and, we're alike in many ways, but we're also very different in many ways. And I think that's why it works too. Like you had said on a previous show too, like we're yin and yang sometimes. I was explaining to some parents today actually about our book and everything and what it is that I'm doing. And I said, it's funny because it works. We got to a point, even in our partnership and our relationship, where the strengths and the weaknesses of each other were able to make up for it. And we had talked about preparing for this show. We had talked about, when we talk about knowing who you are, it's also not just to draw people in better that might be like you, but because you're different, just like a marriage, maybe that's what you're looking at or what you can be attracted to as well. But the reason why it works between us is because we know who we are.
Yes.
We accept it. Mm-hmm. And then we look for a strengths that of other characteristics of the other person, maybe that can help us or be a resource. Like that's how you're so helpful for me, even in some different projects that I'm working on, that might be different from this. There might be something that I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't figure this out. And I bring it to you and you're like, oh, okay, you just do this, this, and this, and this, and you use that and do that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you just solved the problem for me, Yeah. And so it's, we talked about as just us being introverted and extroverted. And I know you're not completely introverted. And I'm not completely extroverted, even though it looks like I am, because I do let some quiet time as well. But even that, understanding and owning, right, that you are an introvert or an extrovert, and maybe that energy that you're looking for balances you out a little bit too. So I think this topic of knowing who you are is super important for that.
Yeah, it is, and you're right. We are very alike in like values and
Mhm.
things that we want to achieve in life, but very different in how we maybe connect with others and how we just go out and do things. And sometimes I do think we're like yin and yang, and I draw off of your energy sometimes, and I'm able to come to you with things that you're strong in that I'm not. And I'm like, hey, what do you think about this, Nat? I'm thinking about this, or I'm struggling in this. What do you have some ideas? And you're able to provide valuable input that will help me, so that I'm not stuck in whatever that is.
Mhm.
And then talking about the introvert and extrovert things specifically. We talked about, like, I hear so many people associate being an introvert with being shy, and that's not it
Mhm.
at all. Now, you do have introverts who are shy. I am not a shy introvert. I love connecting with people. I love talking about lots of things, and so I can go out and be in an environment where I will socialize. But the difference is you draw your energy from that, and I don't. It depletes my energy. So that means that I have to strategically plan for that. So, okay, I'm going to go to an event. I know that I'm going to be kind of on. And so, therefore, afterwards, I need to have that time alone just to regroup and regain my energy. For you, being in that environment, I know when we're out together, you're just bubbling and drawing that energy. Now, when you see the two of us, because we know who we are, we're
Mhm.
off, doing our own thing in those environments. We don't like, kind of hang on the
Yeah.
other, saying, oh, okay, I'm afraid to go out. No. But you're just like this butterfly, and you're around. The interesting thing though is you can't tell the difference between our personalities when we're in those environments. Again, the difference is the after. But I think having our relationship, our partnership, it strengthens. Even doing things like this show, I just feel more at ease coming out and doing it because we're supporting one another and we're bringing our
Mhm.
strengths to the table so that we're kind of like one mind delivering a whole message and content, and hopefully giving a lot of value to those that we're serving and that are
Yeah, I
watching.
agree. Yep, totally. Yep. So that technically is like the first step that we've identified that is really helpful, because I think it really helps. Like, we both connect, but in a different way to other
Yeah.
people. But because it works that way, it's exactly like what you said. It's not like we're clinging to each other in order to like help us connect to somebody when we're at these events. We do it in different ways because we know that this is the best way that I do it. This is the best way that I do it. So I'm going to go off and connect to this person this way, and I'm going to go off and connect to this person this way. And then we always get back and we're like, oh my gosh, so I just met, da da da, and then we compare, and it's fun that way because we're still connecting, we're still networking, but because we know each of ourselves separately, we're able to do that, still make the most of whatever we're doing, and then come back and it's not really that we're comparing, but we sit back and we learn from each other. Wow, that's so cool what you learned about that person, things like that. When we're sitting in the bed in the hotel room or something like that, where we're talking through that night. And
And
it's
that's, I'm sorry, I was just going to say, and you made me think about, that's the importance also of surrounding yourself with the right people, right? When we are together, we've gone to a number of events and we've stayed in the room together. And so we go off and we do these things, and sometimes they're separate in those events. And then we come back, and then we're just kind of hanging out that night and, not going to sleep so we can get up early the next morning. We're instead talking about, this is what I saw, this is what I found out, this is who I met. And,
Mhm.
there's something in the dynamics of that relationship that we have that then multiplies the impact of the networking that we've just had, that networking experience earlier in the day. And it
Yeah.
multiplies it for both of us because we're also looking out for the other. Like, oh, maybe this is someone that I can introduce to Natalie, or I can introduce to Reg, because, they've got this interest. And we've even run into, like, the last event we went to, I think there were a couple people I knew, and I was able
Oh,
to
yeah.
introduce them. So, it's really cool how that happens. And that goes back to being surrounded by the right people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Our friend Megan is on, and she just says, excellent content and conversation. Thank you, Megan. If you're here tuning in, and I see that we've got some people here, comment away. We will stop the show and engage with you. This is why we do things live and not recorded. Sometimes it makes us stumble, but we love having the conversation with you and engaging with you. And so, as you're coming on, if you've had an experience that you want to share, put it out there so that everybody else can learn as well of what you might be going through and what you're learning. So thank you, Megan, for commenting. Yeah. All right. So I guess the step 2, just knowing who you're surrounding yourself and that they're the right people, is knowing that not everyone is a right person for you. Oh my gosh, I have learned this
I have to.
a number of times. Oh my gosh. And sometimes it takes me a really long time, as you well know, to actually change the environment and change the landscape, because I feel bad sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know this. You've walked me through this multiple times. And it's hard for me to walk away, but it is because I always feel, our friend that Tiffany Brown, she had always said, and as I think you've told me this too, the problem is that I see so much good in people that I feel like at some point they're going to be able to step up to where I feel like they can be that good, and so I linger a lot longer than I should. And it takes me almost you guys dragging me out of there. I feel like sometimes you guys have to drag me out of there. But on the flip side, when I'm already gone, the thing that I do love is I love that sense of peace that has been lifted, that I just couldn't see because I was still so hopeful that that environment that I chose to be in was the right environment. So I learned, that's why I stress this surrounding yourself with the right people, that maybe it looked right in the beginning and it's okay to walk away. Like, don't feel bad because it's not always going to be right. They're not always going to be right for you. And it's okay to walk away. So I love this step of just knowing that and being okay with that, because I think that's super important.
It is important. And it's important to recognize that your time and energy is just as valuable as the other person's time and energy, right? And so a lot of times, if we have that personality where either we want to fix everything, that's me. I feel like I'm the fixer. Okay, I know it's going to get better. Maybe if I just tweak this or tweak that, I'm the epitome of finding the good in everyone. And I hang around and wait, like to your point. And you have to get to a point where you recognize, wait a minute, hold up. I'm valuable too. And my time and energy is valuable. And I always say, you can't get time back, right? It's the one thing that you can't replace. We can even replace money, but we can't replace time. Once it's gone, it's gone. So when you put all of that energy and time into trying to make something work, trying to put a square peg in a round hole, and you get to a point where you recognize, I know that I'm in this process of trying to make it work. You've got to sit down and have a come to Jesus conversation with yourself and just say, it may be time to let go because this isn't going to work and this isn't the right relationship for me. And if it's someone in your family, right, you can't just disconnect. Right. Every now and then people do that. I don't recommend that. But you might have to love from afar or from a distance for a little while until you understand your triggers in that relationship. And then you can come back to the relationship and deal with it in a different way.
Yeah. That's actually going back to knowing what you can do and what you can't do
Yes,
and modifying it, because especially if it is your own family, that is hard to kind of walk away.
it
But I
is.
like how you said you can come back and do it in a different way, that you can do basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
I left this up because I like this. Michelle says that I think it takes us a while to learn, but sometimes we need that great person in our life willing to help us see what we might not be seeing at that moment that is not good for us. I totally agree. I mean,
I do
that
too.
yeah, that's the right people that I definitely consider, that they're willing to come grab me out of that situation, because you might not be able to see it while you're in that situation, and to have that person that you trust, and also to have that open conversation. I love the open conversation. A
Yeah.
lot of people that you might have seen that might be in a wrong relationship, or you don't want to say this about maybe the place of employment that they're in. If you're not close and you don't have that open relationship and conversation, sometimes having that, what, I don't necessarily think you should be in that blank, whatever it is,
Mhm.
it can be taken the wrong way. So having these right people is because you trust that person, that they truly want to see you succeed.
You
And
know what I see too is that when it's the right person, there's a few things. These are kind of tips for people to look for. One, that person is always willing to uplift you and try to inspire you and encourage you. Two, that person wants your win just as much as you want
yes.
it. Like they really want to see you succeed and accomplish whatever it is you want to accomplish. And three, that person doesn't always come to the table giving you advice, but they've learned to also lead you to the path of your own answers. So they may see things in you that you don't yet see, and telling you that constantly may not be a good thing, but asking the right questions because they know you and they know your desires and they know what you
Mhm.
want to accomplish becomes really important, because they are going to help lead you to the answers that you already have inside. And that's
Mhm.
the coaching part, and the coaching part piece of me. I love coaching. Instead, I give advice, but I like to coach too. And I think that that comes also with having the right people in your life, because the right people are going to coach you, as opposed to always telling you, well, this is what you need to do. And
Mhm.
then this is the thing that really, another tip number 4 to be cautious of. If the person that's in your life that says they want something really good for you gives you advice and you say, thank you, but I'm not quite ready for that. If they get mad at you because you didn't take the advice and like they get hurt, be
Mm.
cautious, because it's more than just them wanting to see you succeed.
Right.
There's a little bit of pride involved. So be careful.
Wow, that's a good point too. And I feel right now I just feel good, but then also bad, because as you're talking about those 4 different points, or the 3 different points even too, I'm sitting here going, yep, check. I got someone for that. That same person. Yep, check, check. And I'm thinking of you. You all know my really good friend Tiffany as well, and it's one of those things where, like, I feel good because I have those people in my life, but I also feel bad because I want everybody else to have that too.
Yes.
And you guys do ask good questions, and you make me think. It's not just listening and saying, okay, I've got the strategy for you. You got to do X, Y, and Z. No, you make me come to the decision myself, because you're asking me questions that will lead me down the path that I need to take without telling me that. But
Yep.
you're allowing me to get there on my own. So it's not, so it's just like even a parent thing where you're kind of guiding along, because you learn better that way versus just being told what to do
Yeah.
and going out and doing it, right?
Yep.
So, okay, so which kind of brings us to our last step, that you know um, we want this for everybody, but it takes some time. And this is step 3 in surrounding yourself with the right people, is that once you meet this person, you have to cultivate that relationship. You still have to get connected. Luckily with us, we made that commitment. We assessed that we did not have what it took, over maybe a year or so that we were working on, that we really, every time we got together, we're like, oh my gosh, I just ramped up my business or my idea or whatever it is, so then we started to commit to each other and say, okay, I really need you in my life, like accountability wise. And so let's meet on a weekly basis. And again, we saw that take us to the next level as well. But that's the time that we put in to cultivate our relationship, to learn. And when we get together and we meet every week, we don't just get right to business. We catch up a little bit about our lives, about, things that are important to us, so that we can keep each other accountable that way as well. And that's part of cultivating that relationship too, because it is something that's more of a connection versus, all right, let's get down to business. We got to get this done, and that's part of why it's so special too. And so I love this step too, is to continue to make this meaningful and to take it a step further.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that there are 2 levels of what we need, and we've talked about this. Community is one, and you hear this a lot. As human beings, we are meant to connect with other people. And there are lots of studies that have shown that when people come together in community, so maybe it's a mastermind group, or maybe it's a cohort of people together learning something, but that community it provides a level of support that you really need. You think about like the the philosophy around Weight Watchers, for example. When one of the things about Weight Watchers, which made it so successful, was you'd have to go in for a regular weigh-in. That regular weigh-in meant that you were going to check in with other people to say, hey, this is what I've been doing. And I met my goal, or I didn't meet my goal. And when you say you didn't meet your goal, it's not like people are going to shame you or judge you. They're there to encourage you so that the next week you get right back on track. So community is really, really important. And a lot of times when you are off, from an entrepreneurial perspective, even people who are authors, I think of people who are writing books as entrepreneurs. They're sharing a message, but it's still a business. When you are trying to do that by yourself, it's so hard. And we've talked about this before. You may know a lot of things. You may be able to accomplish a lot of things on your own, but you need other people around you that can help, because a lot of times they can speed up getting to what you need really, really fast. So that's one thing that's really important. And I know I've struggled with community, because sometimes I find that I don't always show up consistently. And I've talked to you about this, like commitment is something I have struggled with at times. And so that has kind of kept me from really engaging in the past. But now I realize, man, I can't do these things by myself. I need other people, surrounding myself with people who are even way smarter than I am, that can help me. The second thing is then finding that accountability partner, that one-on-one person like you and I, that you trust, that I know I can come to you, Nat, and I can talk about anything under the sun, and I'm not going to be judged. So I just kind of lay it all out there. This is where I am, and it's okay. And that's not necessarily something I would do in a community group with a lot of people, but with someone that I trust, that I know has my back. It's kind of like, I always throw these slang terms in it. My ride or die. It's like this person that's going to show up for me and just show up and be there for me. And I know that we are that for each other. And people need that too, right? And I know my husband serves that role, but you also need somebody else that can help push you, because there are things that sometimes business-wise that he may not have time to listen to, but you will, and a lot of times you may have had that same thing. Either you've gone through it already or you're going through it. And so it helps to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. And so, as we close out the show today, I want to thank so many of you who kind of hung in there and stayed with us. We're excited because, again, this is something that Reg and I learned together, and we want to bring it to you too. We want to give some environments for people to spend time cultivating that, meeting people, first of all, connecting to that right person, and maybe cultivating that relationship as well. And so, I want you to be on the lookout because we have many really neat things planned coming down the pipeline here as our book is coming to fruition. And we're still, heavy into the editing and walking into the publishing stage. And we're looking at even maybe the next month or so that it's going to be released. And so, we do want to continue getting you connected to each other for those of you who want to be part of it as well.
Yep. It's really exciting. It's kind of hard when we're planning for these neat things and not to talk about them just yet. But as we are planning to launch the book, we're looking at launching a couple of other things to help support that community environment for everyone and where we can engage. And we've been talking about this a lot. Our goal is to really start a movement to get people to stop dreaming of those big things that they want to do and start taking action, even if those actions are small actions. It's, remember Newton's law, third law of motion. It's like you've got to get into motion and you're going to start getting equal reaction, equal and opposite reaction. So you've got to be in motion to get things going. And a lot of times having the community and the support, and we want to be there to support you and connect you to other people who are part of that movement. So, you're going to hear us talk about that more every time we're on the show. It's about, this is a movement. This isn't something that's fly by night. This is not something that's just like, we're releasing a book. No, it is a movement. We are in a time where people need to start taking action because things are so uncertain. And when we sit on these ideas, we're missing opportunities to impact the world in a great way. So
it makes me so excited about all of this. I feel like it's not even about us, you guys. It's about you guys and your idea, and just knowing what it took for us to get to this point. I feel like we're just like the little fire starters, know, and it's like, all we have to do is just ignite just a little bit of you, get you connected. Like Megan also says here, mastermind and accountability is so important to plug into and commit to. I can't even agree. However, infinity amount, it's like 1,000,000% or whatever it is. But I feel like, if you just kind of come along with us, it's going to be so exciting. Because the reason why I'm so excited is I know there are so many people out there that have all these ideas, but they just don't take action. And I get so excited thinking about, man, if we just spread this across however far it's going to go, and really get this movement going, I feel like there's going to be a lot more positivity in the world and a lot more people being happy because they were able to take that action. It's something that they've been sitting on for, I don't even know how long. So it makes me so excited to think about.
Me too. And sometimes it's just, a lot of people will think about, well, I want to start a business or I want to write a book. Those are things where we want to be able to provide resources to you on how to do that because we have walked through those things. We are walking through those things. We know people who have done them successfully. We can bring those resources to the table. But I think, Natalie, the greatest thing that this movement and this community that we're building is about inspiring people and sparking and igniting that flame so that it turns into a huge fire that is really out there doing what it should be doing.
Yes. Yeah. I can't wait. I can't
I
wait.
can't wait either.
So yay. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We are going to finish off the month next week with increasing self-worth. That's our topic for next week. And so we want you to come back every Sunday or catch the replay when you can, either here on Facebook or on YouTube as well. And we'd love to have you join in the conversation with us, engage with us anytime that we're on here. And it's so good to see you, Reg, and to see everyone join in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Everyone, we love you. Have a great week. And happy Sunday again.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye.